Pondercast is powered by you, people who listen. Joshua, Ty, and myself try hard to take good care of our patrons who pledge to us monthly through Patreon. So if you find yourself coming back to Pondercast, please think about joining other Pondercasternauts and go to patreon.com/Pondercast and support this creative work. Big thanks to our supporters. So let's Pondercast. This episode has it all. Music, talk, and pure pondering. I'm talking with Tony Decker of Great Lake Swimmers, Ontario band that have been swimming in our midst for about 15 years now. And if you don't know the music, you will. I'm playing tracks from their latest called The Waves, The Wake. And this album conjures up a world that you're going to want to float in. I'm really curious to talk to you because I think that you write music and put words to things that don't have words that go with them. You write about things that are wordless in a lot of ways. How do you find words for feelings that really don't have a name?
I think part of it is creating an atmosphere or creating a mood or, having that be part of like what you want to convey is not just a narrative or a story or a poem set to music, but it's sort of how it's played or sung as much as what's being played and sung. And I think putting a lot of thought into creating a maybe even an image that's a little bit ambiguous too, that can have different meanings and multiple meanings, and is really open to interpretation. It leaves things kind of more engageable, if that's a word. Yeah, more able to be engaged with, I guess.
And you have a lot of help from the actual world, from nature itself, and it's like you are employing all these things, be it the wind or be it be it water, to kind of set that stage for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I've said it in quite this way before, but I believe that there'll never be enough poems or songs about the moon, and the stars and the sun or any of these natural things. I don't think there'll ever be too many songs about that. I love it. I mean, I think that you could say like, people have written a lot about, the cosmos or the night sky or the way you feel the wind, But I think that there's a reason for that, and there's something very eternal about that and very primal within us that it compels us to talk about it and identify with it in ways. So I love that. I mean, I find that inspiring in my own life and in my own work, but I also I don't think there's a finite supply of good ways to talk about that.
And that's that wordless feeling, like when you're looking at an amazing moon or a piece of landscape or stars, and it's that feeling that in all of us is wordless, but we like that feeling and we like that place. And I think we all think that we probably need more of that.
Yeah, I don't think it could hurt.
That do you need to actually be in that headspace to write like that? Like, do you have to find a vein that feels like that?
Yeah, I guess it is kind of a place, in a way. I feel like I kind of know when something is, worth exploring. I'm not sure exactly how, but
What does that feel like?
well, it's the who was I talking to that said the hair stands up on the back of your neck or something. It's like a good litmus for life. You know what I mean? But it's especially a good litmus for songwriting, I think, too. If you just, you have this, there's some kind of extrasensory thing happening, I think, somehow. The what you're working on becomes, greater than the sum of its parts, and there's something mysterious happening that you can't quite put your finger on. And, to me, that's like worth exploring, I guess.
I've been talking with the wind a lot, throwing words out that I've kept too long. We breathe the same way when we're drawn. I know I have a friend in there. Your fingers weave above the trees. The talking wind, the turning leaves. As you left, I forced to fly on. Left a fragment to be played upon. Fallen and grown new, the wind restored and went right through. I stood in its way and became. Your fingers weave above the trees. The talking wind, the turning leaves. Your shoulder blades among the waves. You fly away, dissipate. Wind makes sound instead of words, and I think I understand. Neither needs to explain in turn. It cries out, and I understand. Your fingers weave above the trees. The talking wind, the turning leaves. shoulder blades among the waves. You fly away, dissipate.
That was Talking Wind by Great Lake Swimmers. Can you hear all the breathing going on in that? That's a lovely opening track to The Waves, The Wake. This album felt to me like the winds of change, how everything is shifting. And Tony feels that too.
We're in an age where I think we should be really rethinking about like how we're progressing, and it's moving so quickly that there's hardly any time to, to try to process that. But I think it is really important to kind of address how quickly things are moving and to try to have a better handle on how we're generally steering our course, maybe as people, but also as a society, and, especially when it comes to things like what we're doing to our planet. And, I don't want to get into too much of a heavy-handed sort of diatribe about how urgent it is, because I feel that I've kind of done that using certain songs and music from, on other albums that I've done. But I that we're hopefully moving towards a general shift and in perspective. And that's, I think, maybe the most necessary thing to move forward in a positive way.
You set up a very interesting energy with the album, with the waves and the wake. And that's one of those mesmerizing things, like you say, looking at the moon or the stars or everything and watching the energy and the repetition of a wave. Why is it that idea pushed that to the very front of the album?
Well, I guess the idea was, aside from those two words kind of being very charged words beside each other, the waves and the wake, they all have their multiple meanings and can work on different levels. But I sort of saw the waves as being the sort of the push forward, and the wake as the trail in the water, from a vessel moving in the water as the trail behind, and then trying to find a balance between those two, and trying to find the center, trying to find the balance in the middle, trying to be present, I think is part of that, and it's not easy, and we have all of these futures in front of us, and we have all these pasts behind us, and finding a center in the middle, in the midst of that, was part of the idea, I think, of that, of pushing that to the front, Yeah.
It's almost like that same feeling when you take breath, in that one moment when the breath is all the way in, but before you're breathing out, it's like, it's that moment. It is so full of everything, so full of potential there.
Did you read that thing about Nick Cave and the artificial intelligence? About like,
yes.
About like, I read that recently, and I was like, I just really appreciated the sort of like the awe, the awe aspect of music that is hard to. And when he talks about, I don't know why, maybe this is sort of related, but when he talks about like there's that factor in music where you have this sense of awe, and I think, relating to what we're saying about, like natural rhythms and waves in particular, I think that when you encounter those things and you really encounter them, and you really open yourself up to them, then you experience a kind of awe. And maybe that's part of what I was trying to get at with the music on this album too, with this collection of songs, was trying to interpret that sense of awe. Because I do feel that, and maybe some of these songs are a way to try to share it.
Na 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 na. I have visions of a different world, to restart, begin again at the root, and reinvent love in a different place, and move at a different pace. is our only weapon, our only defense. For the ballad of bullets and uncommon sense, affection is the sharpest blade, a psychic kiss across the waves. And there could be a different world when the rattler slips from his old coat. There could be a different world, a new light on a new skin. Oh, I have visions of a different world, to restart, begin again at the root, and reinvent love in a different place, and move at a different pace. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na.
You've been doing this for 15 years, and when you the benefit of hindsight, can you look back and remember why it is you wanted to make music and what it is that you wanted to say then? And as compared to now, does it feel the same or does it feel different?
Let me put it this way. I guess I never thought that playing music and writing songs was a viable way to be, you know. I don't think I had ever really considered it. I had no intention of having a career in music, but I had a very strong, I was very compelled to make music and write songs and sing. But it was never, for many years, even as I was doing it, it didn't feel like a career or a job. It just felt like an expression, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that there was maybe a certain point where I kind of stopped and realized this, wow, I'm, you know, like this is what I do now. Now more than ever, like after kind of coming past a certain point and kind of like bringing the sort of like the project to a point, I feel now more than ever that like, that it is still even more so now about like expressing something that I think is insightful and that maybe people will get something from, and that there's something there to share, and that it's rewarding if you start unpacking it a little bit, and that there's a sincere desire to understand something in the songs, you know, and share that sort of approach to understanding, you know, with people and the world. And I think that was maybe at the root of why I started wanting to do it, but maybe didn't quite, you know, have a handle on why, but just felt compelled to do it. But I feel like now, after having spent some time with it, now I feel that more than ever, but I think I understand why. I'm a little closer to understanding, you know, why I'm doing it, or I've just maybe accepted the role a little bit more. Whereas before, I there's no way I would have ever thought that a career in the arts would be possible.
When you have people tell you what your music means to them, how do you feel about that? Because I think of your music and it feels like a balm, like, and I don't mean B-O-M-B, I mean B-A-L-M, because it puts me in that headspace where I'm always trying to get to. And it's very helpful, and I find it useful. Do you have people tell you that?
They have. Some of the most moving things that people have said are when they're trying to get through a difficult time, you know, whether it is an illness of some sort that the music has kind of helped them through. There was a woman years ago who came to a show somewhere in Colorado, I think, and she brought me a painting and said, I painted this for you, and you got me through my cancer treatment, and I want to say thank you for that. And that is the most humbling thing, you know. But it's also, I think, the greatest compliment to, even beyond that, to have been able to contribute something that becomes the fabric of someone's life, you know, or the soundtrack that becomes part of that sort of, that's weaved into their lives somehow, or means something to someone at a certain time too. And I get that now more too, after being 15 years in now too. And not that I'm kind of like spending much time stopping and taking stock of that, because I don't feel that I am. But just having spent some time doing that, there are a lot of people now that said, hey, this was an album for me when I first left home. And now I have, you know, then I got married and now I have kids. And it's kind of like this music means something to me because it brings me back to that special time that I had that time I took a road trip, you know, across BC, or, you know, I listened to your music as it will always remind me of, you know, taking the trains, you know, whatever, in Europe somewhere or elsewhere. And so, yeah, to me, that's like, you know, that makes me feel like it gives me sort of a sense that maybe that it is an important role within our culture.
And that in the end, the songwriting might actually be performing a service.
Yes.
For someone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's kind of a surprise that comes out of music as well, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, that someone is really receiving something from that.
Actually, I did want to bring up the song Falling Apart, and you talk about the fear of falling apart that we all have too, and that we kind of try to hold ourselves together because nobody ever wants to fall apart. But the way that you sing this track and the way that it just feels like it's okay to fall apart when I hear that song.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was partially, the way that the instrumentation was chosen for that too. Like the harp is a very evocative instrument. And honestly, part of that was really wanting to do some sort of collaboration with Mary Lattimore as well, who plays harp on that track. But I think it took the song out of, it kind of shifted the mode slightly. That was a really nice shift, I thought. Yeah.
Never has Falling Apart sounded so lovely.
Maybe.
Thank you, Tony.
Oh, thank you.
Driven to realign beyond recognition. Gone from a sore thumb to an apparition. Faces compelled to tell, trouble has known you well. How did it find you, dear? How'd you get here?
That was Falling Apart by Great Lake Swimmers. Might falling apart be not so bad? Might it not feel like a tragic ending, but something else? The first vibrations of a new beginning? Might it feel like relief? Like the ability to finally put down old luggage that you don't need anymore? Might it feel like shedding an old tight skin? And that new skin feeling everything a bit too much. It's too cold, it's too hot. Maybe that's what transformation feels like. Everything new again. Do we fear falling apart too much? Is it keeping us stuck? What are you willing to leave behind?